This is iFanboy Pick of the Week 772, brought to you by Mac Weldon. For 20% off your first order, visit macweldon.com/iFanboy. Enter promo code iFanboy. And iFanboy listeners just like you who are washing their hands and wearing their masks still like a good hero. Hello, welcome to iFanboy Pick of the Week, episode 772. My name is Conor Kilpatrick, and this is my co-host, Josh Flanagan.
I'm Josh Flanagan, and he's correct. That is Conor Kilpatrick.
It all checks out. This all checks
good
out.
So far. Let's see if we can keep this up.
We are iFanboy, which also checks out. Every week we read a bunch of comics. One of us picks their favorite book. We call it the Pick of the Week. We'll talk about that book, other books from the week, the Patron Pick, maybe some listener mail. We have a good time. That's what we do.
Listen,
that's what we've been doing for 15 years.
Listen, we're going to try. It's not a promise.
No, we're going to try to have fun.
Yeah. Listen.
Yeah.
I love the quiet desperation of the listen. It's the best. It's like my favorite thing.
I just all of a sudden got really hungry, which isn't anyone else's problem but mine. But that's where we are. Josh, you had to pick this week. You son of a bitch.
Why?
We'll get to it later.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, Conor, you warned me not a lot of comics this week, and that turned out to be the case, which led to the brilliant decision on my part to not read them for a long time and then have to scramble at the end. I was like, well, I don't have many. I don't have to hurry. It's fine. Good news is I enjoyed many of the comics.
It was a solid week. I thought it was a short or small but solid week.
Yeah. I
overall
not I wasn't awash with contenders for this pick of the week, and so we went with Marvel number 6. This is the little anthology series that's curated by Kurt Busiek and Alex Ross, and it is somewhat related to the Marvels universe. I believe not a great title to call something Marvel number 6.
In that it takes place in the Marvel universe. It's basically the only way it's related to the Marvels series. But
thematically, or like it's got something. That's why they're doing it.
Sure.
Anyways, what we have here is 2 short stories. I got pretty excited by first One-Eyed Gambit, a Nick Fury story, classic Nick Fury, by Greg Smallwood, an artist whose art I just look for. I look for his art.
Everything by Greg Smallwood. He did all of it. He did the
exactly.
art, he did the colors, he did the lettering, he did everything.
The same case with Liber Mayho, other than the lettering on the silver glint of Space Reflections Gone. Which is a Silver Surfer story. And so I believe this is the last of these. I think.
I would think so.
It felt like it. It's a 6.
I don't know.
Either way. So
it's an odd one to go out on, I think.
It is, but
I thought this was perfect, but I just think if you're going to go out, going out on like a 70s style Fury story and this sort of still 70s style Silver Surfer story, I thought was an interesting way to go if this is the end. So
you've got this Greg Smallwood story where he's just like, you want to see me Steranko? Let's do this. And,
right.
And it's crazy batshit nutso, from the colors to the sort of spaced out layouts, to this weird plot where Baron von Strucker has replaced the president with a life model decoy to, put his plans into effect. His Nazi Hydra.
He's funding Hydra with U.S. money.
Yeah. And Nick Fury has to go get help from MODOK, and they're at one of those casinos that like are in James Bond movies. just high roller casinos with like dangerous armed billionaires everywhere. There can't be that many of those people, and they're not going to all hang out together.
And Steranko's there too. He's playing behind Nick Fury.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so there's no like hiding the influences here. It's wearing that on the sleeve, and it was a really lovely confluence of like the retro stuff and sort of everything that we've learned since then with Greg Smallwood's, art and production, and it was delightful. That first part was delightful. You have any thoughts on that one before we move along?
Yeah, I think this was terrific. We've talked a lot about Greg Smallwood over the years. He has this amazing clean line.
Yeah.
But it's also, I love these artists where you can see the art, you can see the pencils. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how he draws. He may draw digitally, but either way, you can see it, and wonderful, and the colors, as you said, they're garish and they're pop culture, pop arty, and wonderful. I mean, there's one point where Dum Dum Duggan's wearing a bright orange suit.
Yes,
with a yellow belt.
With a yellow belt.
Gloves.
That shouldn't work. And I'm not sure it does, but in this context. And also, he says, "Keep talking, Fritz, and I'll pistol whip you into La La Land," which is what you want him to say. And also, like, I'm doing it. I'm holding my fist out in front of me, like shaking it. And that's what was in here.
And then he goes, as you said, he goes to play high stakes. What is this? I guess this is...
it's poker.
Well, he says he's all in. It doesn't really... Makes sense.
His hand is a full house, Jackson sevens.
They're playing 2-man poker. Like that actually doesn't make any sense now that I look at it. But
you know what? What's important here, though, and you're really glossing over it, is the tiny umbrella in MODOK's drink. That can't reach his mouth, but he has a drink with a tiny umbrella in it.
And then Fury ends up underwater, and then he ends up in space with like a bubble helmet, spacesuit, and then he ends up. Of course, after saving the day and shooting the life model decoy president in the head, he ends up in Fiji with a lady in a bikini, and he's got an Aloha shirt and he's making martinis, and it's like that's the best. And then she's a life model decoy, and then the real one shoots her life model decoy in the head, and then they embrace. This was like the perfect little Nick Fury story. Like, I thought this was terrific.
Too much of this, and you'd be like, all right, I've seen it. But like, we just get in, we get out, we do all this stuff. We make it real pretty. We make it real fast and fun. And it was just a good time. It was, I could have seen Darwin Cook doing this story.
Yeah. It's like super spy Nick Fury. It's
like
he's not
old timey retro rocket that he takes. Like it's a small rocket that he takes and lands on the moon. And it's pretty great.
He's not chomping on a cigar. He's not talking. He's not dropping his G's. And like he is in a lot of the war stories. He's like, at this point, he's more refined. He's spending his time in the Washington upper class, and he is a bit more of super spy, which I liked. And then we got the Silver Surfer, and I was really first blown away by the Libra Mejo art. But then the story really got me, I thought.
Well, so I wasn't really looking forward to it because I don't love Libra Mejo. But pretty quickly in the beginning, the level of sort of detail really got me when I started noticing all the reflections in the surfer of the land around him and so what was going on, and that kind of blew me away. And at first I thought he was definitely trying to do that heavy-handed introspective Marvel thing, you know, and I was like, all right, I've read this isn't so much of a story, but then there was a story, and the second half of it really drew me in. And actually what I'm thinking is, if you're looking at page 19 of your digital reader, it's sort of he shows up in Manhattan, and the Human Torch, lovely rendition of the Human Torch, by the way, just a great design, is coming at him, and you can see the reflection of the torch like all over his body in the different sort of sections. It's in both of his eyes, it's on his forehead, it's on both sides of his chest, it's in each of his abs, and it's just been distorted in that sort of curving around reflection thing. It's amazing. I was like, I don't even know how you do that.
Yeah, and so this is a post-apocalypse Manhattan. Everything was destroyed, and Silver Surfer, Human Torch. You think you think what's going on, and then the moment when they reveal it's not Johnny Storm because it's a blonde guy. Yeah, that it's Jim Hammond, the original Human Torch, the original Marvel superhero. Yeah, at one point he says, "I'm the first and the last," and I was like, "Oof." Yeah. That's a good line. And then
it was.
I was like, that's awesome. And then there's of course Galactus, and then it gets 70s, bonkers. Yep. I thought this was, as a 70s tribute issue, this was terrific.
It really was. And in a way, if you're going to make it the last of the Marvel series, having Jim Hammond there and having, Silver Surfer, which we don't consider to be one of the premier ones, but it's like the most Marvel of all of the characters. Like the Silver Surfer is just it's incredibly Marvel.
If you pitched it now, you would everyone would think you were dumb.
No, only Jack Kirby and Stan Lee get away with that at the time that they do, and it wouldn't have caught on otherwise. But it was beautiful stories, beautifully written, and then we have some not so crazy whackers bonkers sort of ending epilogue to the whole story where Doctor Strange shows up, and I forget really what it was, but basically Nightmare is the big bad that's doing this whole thing, whatever this is. And in the part that's done by Alex Ross, it sort of trips over into this pop art. I'm actually trying to remember who it was. Mitch O'Connell, who I don't know, did this crazy sort of old timey, cartoony style, and every Marvel hero sort of shows up and they take him down. And I thought that the writing was actually really strong in this part. Like, it was why the villain screwed up, because he's trying to control things with dreams. And the thing about dreams is that nothing really happens the way that it's supposed to. And Doctor Strange comes and saves the day. But yeah, as a 70s comic, it was a heck of a lot of fun.
You're right. This is definitely the end of the story. I don't know why I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
But yes, it is. This was a fun mini. People often gloss over anthologies. I'm one of them. Usually I forget to check them out sometimes. It's not really high on the radar of most readers, but this was a terrific miniseries with a lot of fun stories from top tier talent.
And not overdone. I think that's the thing, is that it was 2 short stories per issue, little end cap. It wasn't like everyone was 64 pages. I think it's a tough one to find if you weren't looking for it, as a series, because it's called Marvel. It looks like the cover makes it look like marketing material. It's not like its own story or something. So, and
they've been putting out so many of the Marvel's related books lately that I just sort of glossed over it originally. I think I didn't check it out till the 3rd issue and I had to go backwards.
Yeah.
So, but I'm glad I did because it was terrific.
Yeah, but the first story I really enjoyed. By the time I got to the point in the second story that it sort of clicked in, I was like, oh, that's your pick of the week right there. That's just it's high on the gosh scale. It's good old superheroes just coming out of its eyeballs, but in a really sort of beautiful modern way as well. It really made me appreciate Liber Mejo, because I don't know, that style is not my favorite thing in general, but you cannot deny that craft. And then the writing was really strong too, and even the ending bit was really fun and well written. So yeah,
and we so rarely get classic Nick Fury. That's like, ooh,
yeah,
classic Nick Fury. So you're a jerk. Nightwing 78 was one of the best comics of the year.
Wow. Wow.
It would have been my pick of the week if you hadn't taken a week off and we hadn't switched weeks. So
you're still talking about it.
Hold that on against you forever. Nightwing 78, Tom Taylor, new writer. Bruno Redondo, new artist. You didn't read this, did you?
I wish you'd given me a heads up. I would have.
Well, you're the host of a podcast. You should know what's coming up.
There's a lot of things above that title in my day.
So this is a reset for Dick Grayson. No more Rick, the cab driver. No more.
He was a cab driver?
Yeah. After he got shot in the head, he became a cab driver.
So did that go on? And just so I can set
for a long time.
Like, did it just end? Basically,
it went on through the entire Joker War thing. It basically just ended.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So they really stuck with it. I think it says something that, like, when I look through the issues and I see, it's Nightwing. It's number 78. They didn't. It just looks like another issue of Nightwing, and those have been pretty lackluster for a while.
Yeah, so but we're starting over. I think I just as a for yourself, you might want to check out all the new DC books just to see who's doing them, because they're all, we've got all new pages in all the books.
I think that I've become so ambivalent about Nightwing over the years that I don't even think to look at that one. Also, it's not like they gave it a number 1 or anything, which is a weird choice also. Like, if you're going to renumber everything, then
well, we talked about that last time. They didn't renumber Wonder Woman, but they have it's
right. That's
who
what
knows
I mean.
What
it's
the
just
point
not
is.
Consistency.
Anyway, it starts off with a great flashback to Dick, a young kid. He stands up to bullies. He and Barbara, by accident, they don't know each other. They end up standing up to these rich bullies in Gotham at school and having a little fight scene, and that's fun. Barbara and Jim Gordon end up dropping him off at home, and Barbara's like, holy shit, you live in a castle. That's sort of the beginning of their relationship. And there's a wonderful scene where Alfred and Dick have a talk about why Alfred loves Dick so much. And it becomes important later on. But he finds Dick washing dishes, and he says, that's my job. He says, I'm never going to be cool with you washing my dishes, so just deal with it. And then they have a discussion about why Bruce is the hero when he puts the suit on, but you're always a hero. You're always a good guy. And there's a really nice conversation. Cut to modern day. Dick saves a dog. Like, this is all up your alley. Dick saves a dog from being brutalized by a bunch of drunk high school kids, and beats the hell out of them, and then ends up taking the dog home, where Barbara is waiting for him to give him his inheritance, because Alfred died which we're not going to get into. And
breathe.
Dick missed the reading of the will because he was Rick, and so he finds out here that Alfred was a billionaire, and he left all his money to Dick. So now Dick is a billionaire.
So is the Kingpin in this?
That's Blockbuster, who was a longtime villain of Nightwing's. He was one of the main guys in Chuck Dixon's run on Nightwing.
Well, he looks a lot like like Wilson Fisk in this book.
And then the other thing is that with Blockbuster, he kills the mayor, the city council president becomes the mayor, and she is Zuko. She is a Zuko. The Zuko's, of course, killed Dick's parents.
Right.
This is a very much of a resetting. Terrific art from Bruno Redondo.
I gotta say, the colors,
terrific colors with the dot pitch shading from Adriano Lucas. This book looks amazing.
The scene that you were talking about, that the washing dishes page, there, if you look at the light, how it changes throughout the issue or through the page, I mean.
Yeah.
And when they're looking through the window and they come back and they're sort of made red by sort of the sun setting or whatever outside, and like there's a little bit of red glow behind his hair around them. It's gorgeous. And then the next page is really nice. Do you think this was like a great comic book, or was this just like it was everything that you specifically wanted out of a comic book about your favorite character?
What we've been talking about with Tom Taylor forever is that he really gets these characters. He gets the essence. This is a return to the essence of the character issue for a character that's been, as we know, for various reasons, been off the rails for years. Mostly because he had a giant target on his back from the person in charge of the company. But this is a back to basics. This feels very much in line with what you would have read in the Chuck Dixon run. I love that we don't have hipster Barbara anymore. She almost looks like she's in the 70s. She's got a turtleneck and these big glasses, which I thought was fun.
That's a hipster.
No, not what we had before. Not the Burnside Barbara. I'm glad to see her go. It works as a resetting of the status quo of Nightwing, and I was blown away. I don't know where Bruno Redondo's from, but he's terrific. Mm-hmm. He's another one of those Italian artists that have shown up. That's really good at drawing.
Yeah, what's going on with Italy?
So, it's a back to basics, and that's what you hope for after you have a reboot. Is you start back to basics, and I'm really excited now for the future. And Tom Taylor seems to be a great fit for
your favorite
Dick
character.
Grayson. I mean, he's a great fit for everybody.
I know that, but like you hit the jackpot, Tiger.
I did. When you announced it.
There really is some lovely storytelling in here. There's the bit where the guy tries to punch him in the face and he sort of ducks down and then comes back up and headbutt cracks him the other way. That's a beautiful couple of pages. And then the last panel of that page where he's scrapping and his face is all like mashed up and it's really every page has something in the acting or the composition that is pretty spectacular.
Yeah, it's really good.
I'll read it.
Superman Red and Blue, number 1. We talked about this with Batman Black and White. No, that wasn't you. It was Ryan who when he was in the show when you were not. He said, "Why don't they do this with other characters?" And here we go. Superman gets his own.
I was a good few minutes out of the book when that hit me. I was like, oh, it's like Black and White, because I think there's a little bit about Batman at the end, and that's why it clicked with me. I was like, oh, you explained. It was nice. They explained what the book was in the text of the narrative at the end of the book. And I was like, pretty good. That's pretty strong.
What did you think overall? This had 4 stories in it.
I thought that it was really nice looking in a lot of ways. I don't think the stories were as strong because I don't think the talent was as strong as what they ended up with over at Batman Black and White. I really loved the art in the first story by Clayton Henry. I kind of dug the story, the John Ridley story, in that it was a very different kind of thing than I think we normally get with Superman. And it was about him being powerless and kind of hurt by the thing. If you imagine that he'd been captured by Soviets and they had some kind of kryptonite kind of stuff, and they kept him sort of bound and tortured for a while, like a political prisoner. and he's kind of dealing with it, which is really kind of interesting. I thought not if it was in the main sort of Superman run, I'd been like, oh, I don't know that I want that to happen. But here, there's a really interesting take on power. I thought I liked the stories. I didn't love any of them, I think.
Yeah, I think I found myself thinking that I wished it was in black and white. I don't know that the color gimmick worked here, mostly because they didn't seem to adhere to it. In black and white, it's pretty simple. It's black and white. Here, you've got two colors to work with, and it seemed like sometimes I thought purple was okay because that's a mix of red. Because one of the stories was almost fully colored. It was the one with the kid. With the School of Hard Knocks one, the Marguerite Bennett, Jill Thompson one. Both of those, the Wes Craig one and it's almost like that. They were fully colored stories. It's like that. Then you might as well just do an anthology book. Like if you're going to do a gimmick book with a color scheme, then you should really stick to it and not let us have like gradations of colors.
I don't know that. I think what I feel like is what they did here was they said, "Here's the deal. You're only allowed to use these colors," and this is what came back. And I kind of don't. I mean, I know what you're saying about the skin tone or whatever, but I didn't notice. I do know that like as I got to that story, I was like, "This looks great," because I stopped. I wasn't thinking about the theme. I was actually really impressed by the art in that last one. I'm back and forth on the last story because I think as a parent, I really love the idea that, you know, your parents teach you to be a certain way, but they're really worried about you at the same time. There was, you know, sort of lots of thought balloons and going back and forth, but it's about, you know, raising a good kid who looks over and sees the other kid alone and is like, that doesn't seem right. But if I go over there, my friends might not like me. And it's just like,
no, that story was really good.
But what I was saying, like at the very end of it, though, like the point is, like Superman's a good person. That's why it's not because he's the most powerful. It's because he's an inherently good person, and I think that gets to the heart of it. And it's super basic, but
you missed one story in your script. It's the Dan Waters story. Is the one you were talking about with Batman. Oh, okay. That starts off black and white and ends up being in color. And I actually liked that one too. It was a bit, you know, philosophical.
Yeah.
It was a world where this guy, who is the guy that does it? An imp from the fifth dimension takes all the color away from the world. And so people just don't have the concept of color. They don't know what it means. All the passion's gone. All the love and energy is gone from the world because everything's black and white until Superman gets the colors back. First he gets red back and then he gets blue back.
And I thought it was really nice. Like it was, like every story in here had something pretty interesting and cool in it. It wasn't like they blew me away.
No, nothing was bad at all.
Yeah. But every one of them, there wasn't even like there was a shit one. The Wes Craig art was fantastic.
Yes.
Some really beautiful and imaginative stuff in there. I liked that story too. A different Steve Lieber. I was like, oh, Steve Lieber. But if you didn't tell me that was Steve Lieber, I wouldn't have known it.
Yes, I agree with
that. And that story is about the guilt of like, what about you? There's lots of people you can't help, and what if you'd just done this? And, shit, that's a real life thing if ever there was one, think about the scale that he's got to deal with it. I'm glad I read it. I'll read the next ones.
I'm telling everyone now, and I keep talking about Captain Marvel from Kelly Thompson. This is the jumping on point. Everyone no longer has an excuse. Captain Marvel 27. After the storyline in which Captain Marvel was sent to the future and saved the day, but came back and broke up with her boyfriend Rhodey because in the future Rhodey had a daughter by a different woman, and he didn't want that girl to not exist in the world sometime. She breaks up with Rhodey, and so now she's depressed. And her friends, Spider-Woman and Hazard and Spectrum, and then the new accuser, her half-sister, take her out on the town. They take her speed dating. It's all the classic tropes. And end up fighting these sexy wizards who ride cat snakes who've come from another dimension. And it's just all the stuff that Kelly Thompson is terrific at. It's funny. It tells great character stuff through action and humor, and this group is really fun together. Did you read this?
No. I know you've been banging the drum for this, and you're the champion of it, and I haven't. I got it. I'll get it. I'll read it next time it comes up. I'll be on board.
Well, this is the jumping on point here. So get this one. At the end, she goes to a bar. Carol's an alcoholic and does the contemplating drinking the Irish whiskey thing, and then Doctor Strange.
I don't think I remember that she's an alcoholic.
Yeah, that's the thing she has with Tony. They're both alcoholics, and Doctor Strange happens to be at the same bar
As will
because he
happen.
just wants to go somewhere where they don't know him. You know, like he says, she's like, "Why don't you go to one of your magic bars?" He says, "Because sometimes you just want to drink and not, you know, be the most famous guy in the bar, even though he technically is."
Which is antithetical to Cheers.
Right.
Because sometimes you do want to go where everyone knows your name. It's a different kind of place.
And then almost inevitably, they end up banging. So it was a terrific issue. Like for me, when I finished my books, I was like, okay, it's Nightwing, but Captain Marvel's a close second if I had to pick of the week. It was a very good issue.
That's really good. That's excellent. I wanted to check in on Thor number 13. We seem to be getting to the third act of this.
It's 5 of 6.
I know that, but in terms of like structure, there's the intro and there's the middle bit. We're
Sure.
Now we're in the end game of the whole thing, and I thought it was a really good sort of step towards that. We've gone and we've gotten Odin. We have an idea about what his deal was. You know, he's like, all right, well, he armors up, you know, and the big fight begins. And you know, and there's the one moment where Odin's like, yeah, but you don't know about this thing, and that's sort of when the tides change and everything, and you know, Thor starts to get his power back, and you know, ooh. But there's also a really interesting moral dilemma here, is that like Donald Blake did a lot of bad shit, but he was wronged grievously.
Yes.
And so that's sort of waiting in the wings, just in terms of dramatic and really cool art. I think that Nick Klein, you know, really delivered.
That's 100% correct. I'm looking through this as you talk, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately because we've been reading a lot of sort of smaller indie books lately. And a lot's a relative term, but we were reading more of them. And I find myself just wanting to take every indie artist by the collar and give them How to Draw Comics the Marvel way.
Yeah.
Because, you know, indie books tend to be a lot of medium shots.
Yep.
A lot of straight on medium shots. And there was a book this week we're going to talk about with that problem. But here, as I'm flipping through this book, almost every page includes canted angles, low dramatic angles, characters flying right at you. And I realize that in an indie book about people, you're not necessarily full of action, but you can make the action interesting by varying your shots. And this is like every shot, low angle hero shot, giant, hard top angle from the world tree, you know, Thor getting knocked, or not Thor, Donald Blake getting knocked right at the camera. Like it's full of really dramatic, classic Marvel style action.
And this is the place to do it. This book should always look like this. This should always be, at least, because this is the one, you know, that should just drip Jack Kirby and you know, and Walt Simonson and John Romita Jr. and just go arch all the time. You know, you should break panel borders. Valkyrie punching Odin and having him break through the panel beneath it, you know, as he's upside down. Just delightful. Yeah, it's really wonderful to look at.
It's great. This is a really great book.
Yeah, this is a really good Thor story. You know, like especially if it's like your 6-issue Thor story. You know, and then you know wrap up for 1 or 2 issues. You know, not a 40-issue epic. You know,
right.
Just give me a great Thor story, and that's totally what's happening here. And it's every single part of it's fun.
I agree.
Every single part of my underwear is pretty great too. Connor,
good job.
This episode is brought to you by Mack Weldon. We're gonna do what we can. Listen, sometimes you love a product, and then you have to do an ad for a product, and people are like, well, why don't you shut up about it? Listen, it's sincere. They should.
Oh yeah.
That's probably why they come back. It's like, God, these guys really love it. We don't want to take these ads from them. They love these ads. Listen, right now for the most United States, it's hard to think about spring, which isn't entirely true because everything is melted in my yard. But
well, this as this podcast comes out, it's officially spring.
That's correct. After taking a brief hiatus from outdoor activities and workout routines, it's almost time to get back to the grind. By the way, in New England, we still do activities outside. Anyway, get back to the grind with the new spring essentials from Mack Weldon with body mapping technology and fabric mesh zones. And your guess is as good as mine on that stuff. I see computers. I see a Neo Matrix type thing. As
a bunch of guys in lab coats are looking at readouts and printouts.
And you hold up your arm and you look at it and you see that it just fits perfectly as the projected data goes over it.
One guy has a clipboard. He nods and he writes something on it. What does he write? We don't know.
Yeah,
he knows.
And then somebody has a look of sort of like mild astonishment, like, oh, wow, like we did
within parameters. It's within range.
Mack Weldon's stealth boxers are like that. And by the way, I have a pair of those, and they do look like what would come out of the scene we just described.
So talking about it. So I got an order from Mack Weldon just a couple weeks ago. Huh? I bought a new order, new, and I included two pairs of stealth boxers. Yeah. Little sad that I put them on and didn't disappear, but they are very stealthy. They're for working out, and I think they're great. They're very second skinny.
Yes.
And also I've been trying this new thing out, Josh, where I bought a pair of regular boxer shorts, not for under the pants because that'd be ridiculous, but for sleeping. You know, when it's not cold enough where you need the full pants, but you still want something.
I think the reason I like these ads because they're just on the edge of an inappropriate. Like, it's just like when you listen, you think, I'm picturing stuff and I don't know that I want to, but also like, I'm like, well, how would I feel about that? I don't think I can do that. I don't think I can go back, but I like that you have that option.
I don't wear them with clothes. I just wear them for sleeping. It's like wearing shorts.
Listen,
like gym shorts.
We got to move on.
I'm sorry. I was just excited. I got a new order in.
Let's talk about I do want to hear about that. The Ace line of sweatpants is there, and I believe there's other bits. There's shorts of them that you can get as well because it's spring. You got activities. You want to be moving around. Conor and I big fans of our Ace sweatpants, and you have a pair of shorts, I think, too.
I do. Yes.
Yep. So those are just fine sweatpants. I think they would say those are the best you've ever owned in that category, and I think that's probably true. There's men's essentials. That's your one-stop shop for socks, shirts, hoodies, underwear, polos, active shorts. Well, Mack Weldon promises comfort and a consistent fit. I want one of those hoodies. There's versatility. They look great. They feel great from working out to going to work or on a date, which is a thing that might be happening again. Wow. Mack Weldon is for everyday life, and I swear to God, it makes your day a little bit better. That's all. That's the best I can say about it. Here's this one thing. You're not going to worry about being uncomfortable. You're not going to worry about them stretching all out. They're going to be where they're supposed to be, and it just helps a little bit, and then we'll take it all we can. There's a wide range of customized fabrics. Each of the things are a little specialized depending on what you want to do. I love specialized clothing and gear more than anything in the world. I'm a big fan of that. You can do that no matter what your day looks like. You can prepare for it. There's Weldon Blue, the totally free loyalty program. Level 1, get you free shipping for life. Once you reach level 2 by spending a $200 cumulative in a year, you get 20% off every order for the next year. It's like they're paying you to wear fantastic underwear. This is the guarantee. If you don't like it, if you don't like your first pair of underwear, you can keep them and they'll refund you. No questions asked. They want you to be comfortable. It's guaranteed. 20% off your first order comes along when you visit MackWeldon.com/iFanboy and enter promo code iFanboy. You know how to spell that. It's MackWeldon.com/iFanboy, promo code iFanboy. 20% off your first order. They're reinventing men's basics. And again, we thank them for coming here. Let's move along. We've said enough.
Too much. You said too much.
That's probably true. I almost missed Black Knight, Curse of the Ebony Blade, number 1 for some reason, after very much enjoying the King in Black, Black Knight story written by Cy Spurrier. And I liked this too. I briefly considered it for pick of the week. It's funny.
Interesting.
You didn't like it?
No, I didn't dislike it.
Oh, okay.
It was fine. I thought it was fine.
What I really liked about it is that basically the Avengers call in Dane to do some shit that nobody else can do, which is to go crazy and kill everything. Mm-hmm. And they're not into him. And I think that was my favorite part of it.
That's what kind of bugs me though. Like I don't know about turning him into like basically Marvel's Booster Gold. You know, like that's kind of the role he has here. And he's a long time like Avenger, and they treat him like he's this weird kid that shows up and they has no right to be there. And it's like he was an Avenger like 10 years.
Well, here's my counterpoint to that. I think that you're correct if it continues and moves out into everything and everybody takes up the joke, like Hawkeye.
Right.
But in this context of this story, I'm okay with it. Is that like, I don't want it to be everything, but I like it in this story because I think
it seems to be that's what they're doing with him. That's how he was in the King of Black story.
Mm-hmm.
And now that he's going to be in the Eternals film played by Jon Snow, so he's going to be more prominent in the comics. That's just how it works. I assume this is the direction they're taking him.
Right.
And at one point, even Cap's like, "Oh, hey, Dane." It's like, no, you were teammates for 10 years.
Well, you know what? I know what you're saying, but again, I'm going to stick with it just in here. I can't project out to all the other things that will probably become sucky very quickly. But I thought that the actual storytelling and characterization of that bit was really fun because, Thor's like, screw that guy. And Captain's was like, well, now, Biff, he's okay, because that's who he'd be. He would be, he really would be annoyed by him in this instance, but he would try to be like, well, we got to be cool. There's history and then there's, playing with it. But if I go just on the text of the thing that I've written, and honestly, other than Black Knight being like this really cool looking thing with a cool sword, like I don't know a heck of a lot about him. I don't really have, I don't have a way that he's supposed to be in my head.
Yeah, I was always a Black Knight fan. So that's just me being someone who, loved him as a kid. So annoyed.
Also, we're nerds. We've known all sorts of nerd types, and one of the nerd types is a person who acts like they're at a Renaissance fair, and that's what he's doing in this, and it's funny. And I think Cy Spurrier's the right guy for this. They're attacked by scab beasts. Right. The art was great. It was a fun issue. I see what you're saying, and I don't disagree. But within itself, I'll go with that.
Like I said, I enjoyed reading it. I didn't dislike it. I was just a little bummed that they were turning him into like the butt of the joke.
Are you going to sell me on Justice League right now?
I'm surprised you didn't read it.
Again, I just assume that all of the regular numbered DC books are shitty, and so unless
they're all rebooted.
I think I'm at 3 months.
They're not starting from one.
I'm at 3 months of like I'm trying to get out of the habit of not paying attention to DC books because for a while there was no point. But I guess we're done with that, so I have to pay attention.
Justice League 59, starting over with Brian Michael Bendis and David Marquez. Terrific looking book. This is all. I mean, honestly, this is the book that these two guys are born to make. Although the knock on this one would be that it felt very much like not even a cold open, but like half a cold open.
Yeah.
As the Justice League teams up with Black Adam, who is corporately mandated on the team, as Brian Michael Bendis revealed in an interview this week because of the film. They team up with Black Adam to fight some creature that has shown up from another dimension. And they find out at the end he's from the dimension that Naomi's from. So that's how Naomi will end up on the team. And then there's it's a little less than a regular issue. It's not a ton less because there's a co-feature. The co-feature is Justice League Dark with Constantine and Zatanna, written by Ram V with art by Hermenico. There's Hermenico. And that was fun. I enjoyed that one. But really the fun was the first part, which was the regular team. Although there was a mistake in the book. They're back at the Hall of Justice, and the Flash is there in his lab coat doing sciencey stuff, and they call him Barry, but they color him as Wally with the orange hair. And in the Flash story of the Infinite Frontier, Wally was going to become the Flash of Earth, and Barry was going to become the Flash in the multiverse and go off and have multiverse adventures. So I don't know what's going on with the Flash, but that was the mistake. But you've got Green Arrow, you've got Black Canary, you've got Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. I'm not Wonder Woman. Superman, Batman, Aquaman, Hawkwoman. It's a fun group, and it looks amazing. I mean, there's some really terrific, crazy Dave Marquez layouts here, especially with the Aquaman stuff. But
is all this stuff still double shipping?
Who knows?
I guess we'll know soon.
Yeah, I assume. But this is it very much like a preliminary part of the story.
They're going to ruin Black Adam, aren't they? I really like Black Adam, but I think that...
You can blame The Rock.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's the same way that we can blame Margot Robbie. And it's neither of those sexy people's fault.
No.
They're sexy. They can't help it.
They both are. They can't help it. They don't know.
Yeah. I mean, they know. I would hope so. You don't just eat chicken breasts 50 times a day for no reason.
Right.
But
just ask that one patron who can smell it. Yeah, no, they're going to turn him into basically Wolverine, which is a bummer.
Yeah, he's a great character. You don't want too much, and also then you get that, and you take an anti-hero or even a villain with sort of noble. He's Doctor Doom in a way.
Yeah,
Doctor Doom.
Yeah, for sure. He runs the country. So
he's evil, but a little bit not. But then you turn it around to be like good, but kind of an asshole.
Right.
That's a problem. So we'll see.
It's just not as fun.
No.
When all the villains are also kind of heroes, it's just not as fun.
Yeah, there's no stakes.
It's worth checking out. It looked great, and I'm curious where they go.
Right, I'll be all caught. I got three homework issues. Are there any other DC books that I was supposed to have read this week?
No, only a handful came out.
Right. Yeah, that's what I noticed. Yeah. Spider-Woman number 10 is the end of this arc, where Spider-Woman is. It was a whole thing. I don't even know if I can explain it to you.
I dropped out halfway through. I was like, I can't take this anymore.
I really liked it. I enjoyed it. I like that character. I think that she's been pretty consistently characterized from the Dennis Hopeless stuff into this, and moving along in different ages of this stuff. I thought it was fun. It's kind of wacky. It's definitely out there. Who the bad guy was changed like 3 or 4 times throughout the course of the whole thing. The one lady got turned into sort of a dinosaur human hybrid thing by the High Evolutionary. There's a really nice scene at the end where Captain Marvel Carol is Jessica's best friend, and she was very mean to her. And so like they were like, you have to go apologize to her, and so they're sitting at a table and talking about making up, and it's just good. She's a very human character in all of this stuff, and I think that in some instances, in many instances, giving a superhero a kid can be problematic, but I think that's worked out really well in sort of giving this character an anchor, which she did not have before. Not just as a story point, and now she's got this like little family with Roger, and there's actually like you don't have that thing where well, how do you have time to do all this stuff? Like it kind of works out, you know what I mean? Like you don't have to do the math on well, you couldn't do this and be a mom or do whatever, and it just kind of works, and I like that she's kind of a unique character.
So this is the end of that storyline with the mother and everything.
But it covered a lot of ground.
I just got sick of it after like 5 or 6 issues, and I thought maybe I'd come back after that arc was over.
The arc sort of morphed. It became a different thing than it was, and they've still got to solve the main problem that they're trying to solve. But there's a very nice High Evolutionary in here. I was like, he doesn't seem like such a bad guy. Anyway, I liked it.
He's just a scientist.
Yep, and I thought the art's been really great the whole way through.
Radiant Black number 2, Image Comics, Kyle Higgins, Marcelo Costa, Becca Carey, and I just noticed just now while you were talking that I think Marcelo Costa, another Italian artist, has a bit of a Ryan Otley thing going.
I can kind of see that.
It looks like a little early Invincible.
On the dad?
Just in both of them, really.
Isn't that Corey Walker?
A little bit of Corey Walker, a little bit of Ryan Otley. It's a little bit of Invincible.
Yep. I mean, it's been long enough. It's been long enough for them to have influenced a lot of people, which is fascinating. Yeah.
This is the book I was talking about where it feels like every shot was a medium shot, or like there was not a lot of variation in dynamic paneling. And this is not like a slice of life book. It's an action book. It's an adventure book, but it just feels like every shot was.
I think you're right on that in the day-to-day stuff, but as you get to the superhero-y stuff, it's doing all the stuff that it should.
Yeah, yes. I'm just thinking the first half of the book where it's just basically him and his dad talking. I was like, it's the same medium shot over and over.
Yes.
And
I have given that criticism in the past, and you've been like, I don't know, man. And so it makes me feel good to hear you say that.
Sometimes it's
you're right though.
Like there was consecutive panels of them sitting at a table talking, and it's just like either you're doing it for a reason, and there's no reason to be doing the same shot over and over. Also, the dad and the mom don't look old enough. Especially the mom. At one point towards the end, the mom shows up to help them.
I think the gray hair does a lot of work, but
the gray hair, but the face doesn't. The mom shows up. It could be his little sister. It could be his girlfriend. It could be like she does not look like a mother. Her face is completely line free, and I don't know. There's a lot of work. Marcelo Costa is clearly talented, but clearly early on in his career too. That scene's rough, especially the page 13 on your digital reader, Josh. It's the fourth panel where the mother's talking to them, like the figure drawing there is rough.
Yeah, okay.
But this issue was interesting.
So I wasn't sure that I was going to keep reading it, and I did, and I had sort of the same. I liked. By the end of this, I was more on board than I had been at the end of the first one. And what I did notice, though, is the same thing. Like, I don't know that I noticed the art all that much than the way that you did, because I was really like following the conversation. I thought that the stuff with the dad and the kid who is trying to figure out what the hell his deal is, I thought it was really strong. And I was like, and then again, I was like, oh, right, this is a superhero book. I mean, like, I don't know what that says, but I was into the family drama shit. I was down with it. And such to the extent that, you know, I think there's some really good twists in this, you know, like that the cops weren't coming to arrest him, you know, right. That it was a different deal. They
basically want him to help.
I thought there's a bit where there's a big fight, and the big drama of it is that he realizes that the guy took his car. And you know, that is one of those things. Oh, wow, you have a real problem you have to worry about, because there's all this. You need a job and you need your car for the job and you're way in debt. And I was just like, I feel that, Blue Dude. I understand you.
And, you know, the moment where he stops the guy in the red version of his suit, the bank robber in Chicago, and, you know, finds himself with two giant duffel bags of cash. And this is a guy who is not just broke, but in debt.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a great page using the Spider-Man eyes technique of conveying emotion through this guy's full face mask of, oh, money. Oh, I can't take the money. Fuck.
Mean, there's a real Peter Parker thing going on in general through this whole thing, but it worked. And, you know, it's like if there was an Uncle Ben and he made you oatmeal. Yeah, I actually really liked it. I thought as a character work, the script was great.
Yeah, the father-son relationship is the best part so far.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
But I did enjoy it. I'm going to keep reading it for now.
Cool.
Those are the books we wanted to talk about, but at patreon.com/iFanboy, you can vote to add a book to the rundown. Every patron gets a vote. One patron, one vote. And this week, a blowout win for Orphan and the Five Beasts #1 from Dark Horse Comics, and James Stokoe, who did the whole book himself.
Every little bit.
Published it. He edited it. He took it to the printer. Then shipped it to the stores, all of it.
Mm-hmm. I'll go.
It looks really good.
I think that James Stokoe is one of those artists and creators to me who is extremely talented, and their work is striking, and it doesn't look like anything else, and I don't care about any of the stories they have to tell.
Well, we've in the past we've enjoyed some of his stories. We enjoyed Orkstein. We enjoyed that Godzilla book he did.
Like it's that right, but like the Godzilla, like you're going and you're hanging out for a little while, but at the end of the day, there was nothing in this story that I found terribly interesting. I don't really like the characters. There weren't characters that I cared about. It was all about its style.
Yeah, I mean, I love the style of art.
Yes,
I think every page he doesn't cheat.
No.
You know, every page is full of detail and character and world. It's just that I read this book on Wednesday as we recorded Friday, and I was like, I don't remember what happened in this comic. It's not because I've been too busy or had too many comics to read, because I didn't have that many comics. It's just that I don't really remember what happened.
Well, I specifically noted at the end, like, I don't know. So basically there's this sensei type character, and these 5 mysterious characters need to defeat an evil thing, and they come to him and he teaches them their art, which is their kung fu or whatever you want to call it. And then at the end of it, they take off. And then there's another disciple for this guy who has to go fight some evil, which is a big silly villain. And that's all I know. I don't know anything about anybody or care what anybody's doing, because
what are the stakes?
There's no person. There's no personality that gave me anything to grab onto. So as a piece of art and action, which is fine, by the way, if that's what you want out of a thing, it's not my favorite thing. But from a story standpoint, like what are you actually doing with the story that I haven't seen before that would grab me or that would impress me? There wasn't anything.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened, by the way. Yes, no, absolutely, exactly. But it was sort of unfettered, and again, I don't think that's bad. It's like a type of performance art almost. It's just not my favorite thing. There's another book that came out this week, a new James Herron book.
The James Herron book, yeah, Ultra Mega.
Yeah, Ultra Mega, colored by Dave Stewart. Written and drawn.
Same problem,
but exact same problem. Like he's an amazing artist. I kind of forgot about him because he's been doing all these monster books over at Image, and I love looking at it, but nothing. I know it's exact same criticism I had of that one. I wanted to talk about it, but I just thought, well, I can just mention it in this other one.
I like little touches, like the weapon that the main character has that starts off as something that you can whack people with, turns into a spear.
Right.
The little personal sauna that the sensei has with the little holder for his pipe. Like, I thought that was fun. I was like, ooh, that must be nice. But you're right. No, ultimately, I don't know these characters or the stakes or why any of this stuff is happening other than to happen. And it was fun to look at. Like, I loved looking at it.
Oh, it had a feeling. You could smell the world. You could tell how warm it is. Like you could feel the humidity in the air of this world and everything. And that was great. And it's interesting because I forget what the Brandon Graham book we did recently, but those two guys I tend to put together in my head. I didn't love that, but I know what the story was, and I had an idea, of who the character was, and it gave you something to hook onto. Same sort of like a ton of imagination in it, but there was a little something. But this was very much like visceral, I guess.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, it's at times I like looking at the pages. Go, that's fun drawing. That's cool. I like that what he did there, but it didn't connect me to the story. It was more like a clinical read of the book than anything else.
I was really disappointed about the villain reveal. I just thought it was stupid. The villain is called Thunder Thighs, and he just is a muscly guy with big legs, and it's not that interesting, and I didn't particularly find it that funny.
Right.
Great
East
design.
of the valley, Thunder Thighs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I just want some of the imagination that's applied to the visuals into sort of the characterizations, I guess. It wasn't there. I think it's very much that this is not my thing. So I think that for others, it might have a different impact.
Did you not like Orkstein?
Nope. I didn't read it. I read it for a little bit. Yeah, I know. But to me, it felt like the same thing. It was like a bunch of shit going on that looked kind of cool and not like anything else. But ultimately, I didn't care. Ratings.
I was going to say Orkstein. For Orphan and the Five Beasts, number 1 out of 5. I'm going to give it a 3 because I did like looking at it, even if I didn't really connect with it.
2.
So sticking with it.
No, pretty doesn't matter as long as if there's not a thing. Well, I was thinking about this I was thinking about in comparison to like Usagi Yojimbo stuff that I've been reading. Not all that different in terms of setting and stories, but there's some character thing that is going on with those stories. There's just something about it that I like that I don't find here.
Patreon.com/iFanboy. Any patron can vote to add a book to the rundown, but if you give it the $5 hard level, you get your own superpower live on the show, like these 4 fine feathered friends.
David Newton has the power that outside of your normal transactions, you go to the grocery store, you buy for something, you buy a stamp, you pay money. No one ever asks him for money, donations, or anything outside of the things that he purchases.
He has a force field around him. No one ever asks him. No one tries to stop the gift for Greenpeace or
the phone doesn't ring in that way. He's never offered, unless he asks about it, the extended warranty. He does the transactions that he's doing, and that's it. There's no. He doesn't have to do any moral thinking about should I or shouldn't I do this for this person. It's not. No one ever asks him. He doesn't get emails for charities that he's supposed to fill. He doesn't mean he doesn't give. Yeah. He's not solicited for those things.
He does it on his own terms.
Yes.
Not their terms.
It's a gift.
Yeah. So I was very proud of this power. Came to me. I've never heard of it before. Patrick Williams turns water into wine. Now,
okay, go on.
He can convert any water into any wine that has ever been.
What do you mean by any water?
Well, it's tap water,
okay,
bath water. I guess it's all tap water at the end of the day. And water, H2O, of any type, turns it into wine of any type, any kind of wine, any kind of famous wine. You want a Chateau Lafite Rothschild? Patrick's your man.
Well, all right then.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? I gotta say, if that showed up in something, it could have some legs.
Maybe.
I'm gonna check the book and see if any of this is okay. Bo Conroy has indestructible teeth, and they require no upkeep, maintenance, or cleaning otherwise.
He doesn't have to brush them?
Doesn't have to do a damn thing.
No brushing, no flossing?
Nope.
They never smell?
Those teeth stay magnificent at all times, and they require no intervention of any kind.
I was having ribs the other day, and I had to floss for like 20 minutes afterwards. He doesn't have to do that?
Nah.
All right.
It's there's a code. It just works.
It's frictionless teeth. They just
also it has to do with like the spacing and alignment.
Perfect. Indestructible.
They're
teeth.
perfect. They're not sensitive to cold.
Wow.
So he doesn't have to worry about biting into a cold apple and whether that's going to hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
No Sensodyne needed?
Not a bit. You're not supposed to stay on that stuff, by the way. It says on there, do it for 2 to 4 weeks. You can't, and then otherwise anyway, we're getting into it too much.
Kevin Crotty. Crotty? He can't walk on water, but he can run on it.
We're going to have a discussion after the show. Because I don't think this can continue. If you kill him, 3 days later, he's right as rain.
He can run. He can't walk. So at a certain point, it's like the bus in Speed. Like if he slows down, it's all over for him. But
I actually think that makes sense. I assume that's the case with the Flash.
Right.
If he slows down, he's going in the drink.
Yeah, absolutely. So he has to at least be above a jog. So he's got to get going and run right over the water.
So does the question? I mean, is that really more about speed than it is his effect on the capillarity of water?
It's the magic of his power, really. It shouldn't work, but.
All right, well, okay. So at a certain speed, any of us could stay above the water.
Maybe. I assume so.
No. That's physics. Like at a certain sort of level, because you're not exerting that much downward force on it.
He's not the Flash. He's just at a regular human running speed.
So like but what about that's at a Tom Cruise run. That's the thing. But what about like a fat guy shuffle jog?
Yeah, it's just it's relative to his own ability to run.
Speed walking?
No.
Okay.
Speed walking does not count.
So he's got to really judge that based on his own fitness level. So if you're going to take off across the lake, you're going to want to be able to
make sure you can make that run.
You want to maintain that. You want to maintain that sprint. Like I'm in trouble. I'm going in, pretty much outside of a small pond,
small pools. Not that kind of thing.
Right. Oddly, you can't do it around pools though, because in the pool you might be able, but there's no running around the pool.
That's right. But if you want to
emphasize that
friends, you could run out there and then just sort of drop in. That's a fun little trick.
All right.
Patreon.com/iFanboy. That's where you can vote to add a book to the rundown. You get your own superpower live in the show. Thanks for all who do that. And that's where people who go and want to help the show out. Patreon.com/iFanboy. They unlock content for all the listeners. They unlock the Patron Pick. They unlock the Talksplodes and the Booksplodes and the Media Splodes shows. They unlock the YouTube content. And we have the monthly hangouts. All that stuff's been unlocked by the patrons over at patreon.com/iFanboy. People have asked us several places, hey, what if you brought the video show back? Well, that's one of the stretch goals over at patreon.com/iFanboy. Check it out. We're never going to hit it, but it's over there. What else we got? We have ifanboy.threadless.com. That's where our t-shirts are. Actually, right now, there's a sale on Threadless. So from now until March 24th at 5 o'clock Central Time, you can get regular tees for $15 and 15% off everything in the shop that we sell. It's a perfect time to stock up for your spring essentials. It's springtime. You want to get some T-shirts. You want to get some
maybe
ultra premium face masks.
Maybe your old T-shirts don't fit like they did a year ago.
It's been a year of sitting depressed, eating and drinking, and not exercising. Maybe you need to go up a size. And so that's all at Threadless. iFanboy.threadless.com. We have our 8 T-shirts designed. And again, $15 regular tees and 15% off everything else in our store. So check that out. iFanboy.com/support. That's our tip jar. People have been dropping tip money in the jar lately. We think everyone does that. iFanboy.com/Amazon. You can find our Booksplode books. You can find our Pick of the Weeks in the Pick of the Week post through Amazon. And there's a general link there. And everyone who does all the above, we thank you for helping keep the show going. And without you, there would be no show.
That's true. Let's do this one really quickly, and then we'll get out.
Okay.
Andrew from Minnesota writes, reading a John Carpenter interview this week, they discussed how The Thing, the movie, was not a hit or well received when it came out, but it is now thought of as a classic and one of the best horror films of all time. This often happens in albums and movies, but I can't think of it happening in comics. Are there comic series that have gotten reevaluation praise? I've been thinking about this for 2 days, and I can't think of any. Please help. I made a note here because I didn't want to forget. It is my understanding that The Walking Dead early on was in danger of cancellation early on, which prompted the famous, I don't know if it's famous to you, but it's a story I remember that of Robert Kirkman telling Jim Valentino that no, the aliens are going to come later, and then getting an extension.
Is that what happened? I thought that was just to get it published in the first place, was that there was eventually the aliens.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like that came along later, but I think at the earlier bit of it, like the thing about that comic book was that, first of all, he was not known really at all at that time. And so it came out to relatively little fanfare, and it grew, which is the exact opposite of how every other comic book in the world works. And so, but it was growing slowly enough that I think at the beginning, there was a point where it wasn't really sure to go on, in a way that, because they couldn't have known what was going to happen with it later.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's exactly what he's talking about, though.
This is this thing. Then my other note here was the X-Men. The X-Men was canceled. It went into reprints for years. They stopped doing new stories about it, and then Dave Cockrum comes along with. Was that who it was? Who wrote that? Giant size X-Men.
Again, I don't know exactly what he's talking about, because those early books I don't think are thought of as like classics. It's more the concept, because comics are weird. It's more about the concept than the actual.
It's the best I had.
Work. I know. I'm just saying that comics don't often correlate to other media. People want them to, and we try to do it. We've even done the show, but like the X-Men was canceled, but I don't think anybody looks back on those 60s books. And I like those stories. I've got the omnibus, the Stan and Jack X-Men omnibus. It's fun, but people for a lot of people, X-Men starts with Giant Size X-Men #1 because the concept was reevaluated, but not those early comics.
I think the place that this shows up in comics is going to be more along the lines of your indie stuff, because there's so much of it, and it doesn't come out to a lot of. They don't have resources. They don't have notoriety. Mm-hmm. So once sort of award season comes along and the Eisner stuff comes out, like that stuff builds steam. And I don't have examples because, it's not like you see numbers on those kind of things. But, there's a lot of books that have been out for a year or so, and then the Eisners come out and people start to read it like there's kind of a groundswell, but that's not exactly what you're talking about either.
Yeah, it's not like people look back on, Wolfman and Perez's Teen Titans and go, wow, that was a classic run. We don't talk about enough, because they did at the time. I think it's almost like comics are so intense that people are always on top of what's happening.
Comics are kind of front loaded in that way. That usually, I'm sure that happens with smaller series. Like, okay, on a much lower level, a thing like the Marvel series that was the pick of the week, or
that was a huge book that came out.
Huge. No. I mean, like literally this series.
Oh, the miniseries,
right? Which you kind of looked at and didn't go, and then
for us, sure.
Right. But that's what he's talking about. So, but we do that, and then however many thousands of people who listen to this, they'll go check out a thing like that, and maybe like a book like Sweet Tooth, or like that's how those things sort of grow. They don't come out to a lot of fanfare, but
even then I don't think we're hitting it, because it's like the thing was not well received, meaning people. Well, he says not a hit. It's hard to say.
Not well received though, but like I don't like John Carpenter, and I don't know that a majority of people do. I think that enough people do in a very specific way that they became cult things. But It's really about like something becoming a cult hit more than it is about becoming like a big hit. And I think that probably happens in comics all the time because, you know, comics don't come out to a ton of fanfare, especially things that are not really well known, but it's not going to be like Marvel DC stuff.
I think your closest you're going to get here is something that you mentioned a few minutes ago, is like a smaller indie book that comes out under the radar, no one knows about it, and then it gets discovered in collection or trade, or it gets, you know, around wartime. Like, you know, Whiteout was a book that, you know, it came out through Oni Press. Greg Rucka, Steve Lieber weren't big names when it came out at the time. It didn't really, you know, leave a huge mark, but later on, both those guys became bigger names. The collection got read way more than the issues did, and you know that's really where you get that kind of thing in comics. Is
I bet
a smaller book comes out, and then later on, when it's in collected form, or the creators get to be bigger names, like all early Brubaker, you know, any of these guys that became bigger names, their early indie stuff, which comes and goes, it becomes a bigger deal later on when the creators get better known.
That's a good example. I bet that if you went and looked at the numbers for like Warren Ellis taking over Stormfront. You know, that
Stormwatch?
Huh?
Stormwatch.
Sorry. Yeah. Listen.
The other one's not the same.
You know, or you know, like early issues of probably a lot of those Vertigo series. They had to build a thing because those guys weren't really. Those were a lot of 2000 AD guys who weren't really well known in the States. I bet that happens, but I don't know the numbers. It's an interesting question, though.
Yeah,
let us know what you think.
Culture and fandom is not exactly the same in film and comics. It's just a different,
especially in 1980, whatever, too, when that movie.
And you don't have like scholars writing about early comics in the way that they do with film. You know, reevaluating works.
It might, but no one sees it.
Right. It's just not the same culture.
Contact at iFanboy.com.
Thanks for writing in.
Yeah, is where you can write in. Make sure that your question is something we can read on the air and not necessarily an essay. Can't do that. I mean, you can tell us your thoughts. We're totally fine with that. But, you know, like think of it in terms of how we can read things. And thank you for that question. Actually, I don't think we had great answers, but I actually really enjoyed the conversation, and I liked the question. This is what is going on. I told you last week, and you were listening, that there was going to be a Talksplode. And then there was going to be another Talksplode. You did a Talksplode, and then you did a Talksplode again.
You're out of podcast jail, Josh.
I am caught up until, you know, next month. So we had Josh Williamson last week, which, you know, he talked about the idea for Infinite Frontier, which can you please just explain to me what this is? And I liked his explanation in a way that I didn't understand from the other stuff I'd read. And we talked about his career. It's really interesting because he, you know, I've known him since he was a really hungry up and comer. Like I was like, oh, this guy's serious about it. And now, you know, he's right up there at the top of DC, you know, helping sort of steer these events and do stuff like that. And it's a really interesting sort of arc to go through. And I pretty much talked to him on one of these shows at each of those stages. So that's pretty interesting. I enjoyed talking to him. And then this week, you will have seen it before this show came out, is a conversation with Ibrahim Mustafa, another guy over the past 10 years has gone from sort of completely new guy working on whatever he can get his hands on to now he has a 3 graphic novel deal with Humanoids, where Mark Waid is the editor-in-chief. You know, and his first book just came out, The Count. It's an original graphic novel, sci-fi adaptation of The Count of Monte Cristo. And I've known him over the internet for a very long time. He was a fan of iFanboy, as a big sort of iFanboy component to that I did not know about. It should be noted. I was like, hey, come on here and talk about what we did. But really interesting story. I like him a lot, and I was glad to have that conversation with him. So I think both of those are very much worth listening to. And thank you for your patience. Moving on.
Yes, and we technically only have a week and a half left of the month, but you're going to get 2 more shows. Booksplode for Avengers West Coast Vision Quest. That's our next Booksplode discussion. And then our Mediasplode show, in which we're going to take a look at the year that was, the weird year that was in movies coming out of the Oscar nominations. And both those shows will come out in the next 2 weeks. One of them will probably come out the first day of April. But that's just the way it goes. That's just the way it goes.
Don't give me any guff, kid.
I'm not giving you guff. I'm just saying that.
I was talking to them. Like there's some kid out there. He's thinking about giving me guff, and I'm saying, hey, keep your guff in check, pal.
Head over to iFanboy.com. That's where all these shows are found. All of our vast library, over 1,000 audio shows, are found over at iFanboy.com. And also you can find a lot of video shows and a lot of writing too. Facebook.com/iFanboy and iFanboy on Twitter, at iFanboy Comics on Instagram is where you can find out what the pick of the week is before the show comes out. Individually, we are CS Kilpatrick on Instagram and J Flanagan on Instagram. And we have our YouTube page, youtube.com/iFanboy. That's where we've been putting all of our old video shows from years ago are being re-uploaded thanks to the patrons. And this past week we had an iFanboy mini interview with Dan DiDio. We had a spotlight episode on The Punisher. And we had our 100th episode, which was a look back on our first comics, iFanboy's first comics. They're all there. I was doing the math the other day. We have about 80 full-length shows left to be uploaded. So it's, you've got another year and change of...
I think it's
actually
really...
not true. It's really... About a little less than a year of upload shows.
It's really interesting that people have been... I mean, not like a huge number of people, but people have been watching them and like coming back and talking to us about some of the stuff that we did, and it's cool. Just, oh, wow, we did do that. And sometimes you watch me like, oh, that could be better. And sometimes you watch them and you think, it's not bad, It
was fun, and that was from our crazy year of 2008. Both the mini and the full length shows. Those are all at youtube.com/iFanboy. Subscribe if you don't want to miss out. There's 3 uploads a week, and I enjoy that time travel, the time capsule aspect of it.
If you like this show, write us a review, leave a star rating on Apple Podcasts or any of the other services, or Spotify and Stitcher and whatever. There's a lot of them. That really helps us, and do that for other shows. I don't just mean us, but like everybody doing free content for you right now. Do what you can, especially if you really appreciate it. It's important. If you're not doing the patrons or whatever, and there's a lot of people who want patron stuff, and we get that, but like, do that bit. It's the same thing. Like, leave great reviews on Yelp for places who did you good. Same thing with these guys. This is how it works. Better yet, tell your friends, do that kind of stuff. Tell your letter carrier. From a safe distance, Yeah. Depending on what they're doing over there, it's hard to say. It's going to be spring, so it's going to be outside. You'd be watching out for mud puddles, but maybe having a little conversation on the street because there was nobody there before. And that's it. Thank you very much. You were Connor?
I was Connor. You were Josh.
That's correct. Stay safe out there. Wash your hands. Wear your mask. Get your vaccine as soon as you are able, and take care of each other.